This is your morning brief for Tuesday, March 12th. Well, it's good to be back in the studio. I had a couple of days off. I went down to North Carolina, played a little bit of golf for 3 or 4 days. Didn't get the best weather, but enjoyed it and needed the time off. All right, back to work though. Ethiopian Airline plane crash takes down Boeing shares 5%. Shares were down as much as 8%, but ended up only down 5%. I do have an opinion about this, and I would not be getting into Boeing shares right now. I thought there was a lot of risk in Boeing before this crash. I felt there was too much valuation risk. It was overloved. It is a great company. It's hard to argue with that. The numbers are good for return on capital. Great business. But I just think the shares are just overvalued. So I thought we had enough risk that I was staying away anyways. This adds a whole layer, a whole level of risk that I just would not be willing to take on. I want to compare it a little bit briefly to Johnson & Johnson. So they had a press release a couple months ago, not that long ago anyways, that there was asbestos in their talcum powder, and the shares were down 10%. And that was a time when we recommended you buy Johnson & Johnson. Okay, so Johnson & Johnson, that was a small product of their overall business, right? It was just a piece of their overall business. And so, that alone is a big difference right away. I always thought Johnson & Johnson was a cheap one you should try and get into on any kind of pullback. And even with, obviously added risk from the headline, but it was worth the risk in that case. Airplanes is all they do. Okay, this isn't like, well, the other business will be fine, not a big deal. This is a big deal. Okay, you can't have planes crashing. You can have a little bit of asbestos in one product, and people will still use the other products. And I will bet you, it's just the nature of human nature is, I'll bet you some people even watched the press release on the talcum powder or baby powder having asbestos in it and went right back to using it anyways. Okay, not so much with an airline, right? Not so much with, gee, I really want to get on that plane. It's kind of a strange mentality, because both will kill you, but the one that does it instantly is more scary. So I think there's just a little bit of different risk there. And I don't know how easy this is to fix. They claim it's a software problem, and they're talking out of both sides of their mouth right now. They're kind of saying, oh yeah, there's a problem, but we'll fix it, and they're completely safe to fly. A lot of people aren't going to buy that. So I think there's just too much risk in Boeing with obviously the crashes, but it was risky with valuation anyways. I need to see this down a lot more before I would even think about it. So that's my opinion on Boeing. I don't officially cover it, but I've looked at it many, many times because it's obviously a brand name that lots of people would want to know about. Okay, Barrick drops their hostile bid for Newmont, opts for a joint venture instead. It's a pretty good move, actually. I kind of like it. No one wants to be in the hostile bid. Newmont had nothing to do with this. But they share a property or adjacent properties, I should say, in Nevada, and literally separated by a fence. And take down the fence, operate as a joint venture, probably get some synergies there, some cost savings. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it's a 2-year deal, so there won't be anything happening in terms of hostile bids for at least 2 years on these companies. But it's kind of opened up the Pandora box of mergers in the space, so it should be still an interesting space to follow. Okay, Nvidia outbids Intel for Mellanox. Mellanox is strong in data centers. I have to admit, I don't know Mellanox very well, but I quickly read up on it. They're strong in data centers, cloud. Not that huge a company. This is only a $7 billion market cap after the shares have been bid up. It looks like a good one to me. The return on capital is good. It's improving. It looks good fundamentals. We can do that in a snapshot. So yeah, it was good. It looked maybe a little bit rich, but good company. I'm kind of disappointed in Intel for not outbidding Nvidia in this case. Intel missed a lot of the mobile. I don't want them to miss the next phase, the 5G phase. Obviously, data centers are huge. They have an offering in there anyways. I suppose it might not be that big a deal for them to miss out on this. Looks like a good deal for Nvidia. This makes me more bullish on Nvidia, although I'm still waiting for a little bit more news, or maybe another quarter on Nvidia, maybe a little bit of a pullback, even more. But anyways, good for Nvidia. I wish Intel would have been stronger on the bid, but it is what it is. Okay, CPI data out at 8:30, which is just right around now when we're taping, so I'm not going to have any opinion on it, but it's expected to be about 2.2%. I'd like to see it maybe a little bit lower. You never really want high inflation, and the Fed kind of wants around 2%. So I'd like to see them stand pat. I'd like to just stay out of the way. Okay, Trump calls Apple CEO Tim Cook, calls him Tim Apple, but won't admit to the gaffe. It's the strangest thing. It's right on tape. It's as obvious as day what he said, and he just won't admit it. He says he's trying to save words and time. For like, and he said, no, I said Cook really quickly, so Tim Cook Apple. That still doesn't make any sense. I don't know why you don't just say, hey, I made it a little slip, I apologize, and let's move on. But that's not his nature. He can't help himself. So he just went on a little Twitter rant about saving words, and he typed out a bunch of words to say how he was trying to save words and time. Anyways, I don't get this guy. It is what it is. And that's your morning brief for Tuesday, March 12th. Let's find some gems.